Hey everyone, and welcome to the 9th episode of The Name Sisters. I am your host, Weeby, and here are the other Name Sisters. Elena.
Hi.
Alexia. Amelia. And Megan. Today we are going to be talking about names that we think should make a comeback. So names that were once popular but now sound fresh. To start us off, Elena is going to share her names with us.
Okay, so like Reedy mentioned, our topic for today is names that are ready for a comeback, and I have a whole category of girl names that I would like to share, and they are French names. I personally know so many people between the ages of 60 and 80 with names that end in et or een or l, and those names, a lot of them aren't even in the top 1,000 right now, and a lot of them were in the top 100, 60, 70 years ago. My two favorite French trends are names that end in et and names that end in een, and so a couple of suggestions I have for names that end in et, E-T-T-E. The first one is Jeanette, or Janet. I've heard it pronounced like that too. Right now it's not in the top 1,000 girl names in the U.S., but it was most popular in 1939. It was number 82. I know a really sweet woman named Jeanette, and something that I think would make it desirable in 2015 is that I know so many people with the middle name Jean, J-E-A-N, like Reeby, and if somebody maybe didn't want to use Jean, wanted to spice it up a little bit, Jeanette would be perfect. And then another similar name is Lynette. I also know some sweet older ladies named Lynette, and it's not in the top 1,000 right now, and it was most popular in the early 60s. And once again, I know even more people with the middle name Lynn than I do Jean, and Lynette would be such a pretty sweet little way to make it a little more modern maybe. And then my other trend that I really love are names that end in een. And my two examples I have for that I really love, one is Francine, which is not in the top 1,000 right now and was most popular in the 40s. I know lots of people that have Franks or Franceses in their family, and I think Francine is so adorable. I think Francie is a really sweet nickname. My other name I wanted to mention that ends in I-N-E is Pauline. It's buzzing right now in the news because Vin Diesel named his daughter Pauline after the late Paul Walker. I have loved the name Pauline for several years after watching the movie Ballet Shoes, where Emma Watson plays a really sweet character named Pauline. Yeah, I just think they're really sweet, and they've been gone for so long, they just need to come back to me. Some other names, if you want to use a French-sounding name, but maybe not one that was ever super popular a long time ago, there's also Estelle. There are lots of L names coming back, like Isabel and Annabelle, and Estelle and Arabelle would totally fit in that really well. Names that end in Anne, A-N-N-E, like Ariane, or Julianne. With Ariana, there's two spellings of it in the top 100 right now, and so I think Ariane would totally be usable today. There are also names that end in Lee, like L-I-E, such as Rosalie and Coralie. And you could also look at names that end in Eek, I-Q-U-E, like Frederique and Angelique. And yeah, there are just so many names that fit in this category that are not being used right now, and they're totally ready to come back.
I heard the name Delphine today, and I thought Delphine was really, really sweet.
Mm-hmm. I actually went to school with someone who had Delphine as a middle name.
Megan, what names do you have to share with us?
So I was looking at my personal top 10 favorite names, and my girls' names, most of them are kind of like that old lady, but new again, kind of could fit that category. And my number 3 girl's name at the moment is Cordelia Violet. I love that combo. And it does sound like it could be a name of a woman or a little girl born many moons ago. Cordelia is a beautiful Celtic name that means daughter of the sea. I've also seen it listed as a Latin name meaning heart. Both meanings are gorgeous. And Cordelia, as lovers of the Anne of Green Gables series know, is the name Anne would have named herself, and we have a lot of lovers of that series on our little panel here. Cordelia is also a type of butterfly, and I've got butterflies remind me of my great grandma. There's lots of little sweet ties here, and I think Cordelia fits in with a lot of like girls' names that have been climbing the charts, like Amelia and Olivia. It's got that same kind of feel. It was most popular in 1900. And last year it was only given to 199 girls. There are so many cute nickname options. I'm a big nickname lover. You could do like Corey or Cora or Della or Delia. I know a sweet woman named Delia, so I kind of love that tie. And Cordelia just has this like very romantic, grand, feminine sound to me that I adore. And the other name that I'd like to see make a comeback, which isn't actually that low on the charts, is Walter, which shockingly is another name from the Anne of Green Gables series. It was the name of Anne's father, and she uses it for her son later on. It's a German name meaning army commander or army ruler. It's currently number 342 for boys, so it's kind of like that sweet spot where it's used but not too popular. I've never met a little Walter, actually. It was given to 930 boys last year, most popular in 1914. And Walter, to me, it does kind of have like an old man sound, but I think that's kind of charming. It sounds really like sophisticated and like old world, and I love that. And then one other name that I'm not going to like delve into, but I just adore is Winifred, and the nickname Winnie. I love all those like little old-timey nicknames for girls like Winnie that are coming back. So those are my picks.
I love the Walt Disney association with Walter as well.
I actually met a little boy named Walter in Florida, and his parents were from some Eastern European country, and they called him Walter. But they lived in Florida, though. I remember thinking that was so awesome. I love that.
Amazing.
It was a long time ago. Do you know what's cool about Cordelia, too? You mentioned nicknames, and Cora in Iowa, at least, was actually in the top 1,000 on the last, or I'm sorry, in the top 100 on the last list that came out. So I do think it'll be in the top 100, like in the whole U.S. soon. And so Cordelia would then be even more useful to me anyway, because of that.
A couple of years ago, I came across this woman, this mom, and she had a blog. Her name is Kelly Hampton, and she came out with a book a couple of years ago called Bloom. I don't know if any of you have heard of it, but it's about her story with her daughter who was born with Down syndrome, and she didn't know until her daughter was born. And her daughter is so sweet, and her name is Nella Cordelia. And I remember hearing that and thinking, oh my goodness, Nella Cordelia sounds so beautiful. I love it. That's what I think of, too.
Such a gorgeous name.
Love it.
So I was looking through my top 100 names and looking at ones that I think should make a comeback. And one that really stuck out to me for a boy was Moses. Moses was most popular in 1880 in recorded history, but it was actually probably more popular among early Americans during the Puritan times. I think they would have used it more, but of course we don't have records from back then. Moses is currently number 468 on the popularity charts in America. So it's not unpopular, like super, super unpopular. It's heard of, but it's not to the point where it's popular. And I think that Moses would make such a great alternative to Noah, which is extremely popular, considering they both have that long O sound, and they're both names in the Old Testament, which are very well known. The story of Moses is well known, and the story of Noah is well known. So I think it's just kind of a matter of time before Moses starts to become a alternative to Noah that people kind of catch on to. Right now it's still in that spot where people are like a little bit afraid to use it, but I think that over the next 10 or 15 years or so, more people are going to see it as a viable choice, and I just think it is such an awesome name. Mm-hmm. And then for girls, I have the name Jemima. Jemima has been a favorite of mine for a while. Jemima has never been in the top 1,000 in the recorded history that we have, but again, it was a name that was very, very popular in the Puritan times and in early America. And I know a lot of people still associate it with pancakes and Aunt Jemima, but I don't think that association is quite as strong as it used to be. So I could see this name sort of starting to come back. And Jemima, in the Bible, she's one of the most beautiful women in the land, and it has a really beautiful meaning. It means dove. And Jemima is actually already making a comeback in England and Wales, and they tend to be a little bit ahead of the U.S. in terms of trends sometimes. It's number 222 in England and Wales. So I can definitely see Jemima making a comeback in North America. And I love the cute nickname Gem or Gemma or Jemmy that you can get from Jemima. I just think that Jemima is, you can't really go wrong with it. It is so pretty.
I've heard that it's pronounced Jemima in some other English-speaking countries too, and that might make it maybe a little more accessible for people who are afraid of the Jemima association or whatever if they change the pronunciation. But I think it's gorgeous either way.
Well, that has always bothered me with the food association because, you know, you have Nathan's hot dogs, you have Sara Lee bread. I mean, there are names all over food. I think it's because the name Jemima is so unique, maybe, that it's so closely tied to the syrup. But I think that if people like it, they should use it and not be so concerned with it being maple syrup. Because also, honestly, what's bad about maple syrup?
I know.
Everyone always has these associations with things. I was talking to Megan and Amelia about this, and we were talking about how Casper, the name, has the Casper the Ghost Association, and we were just like, why does everyone dislike it for that reason? There's nothing even wrong with Casper the Friendly Ghost.
The Friendly Ghost!
Yeah.
I love Casper. I was just looking at a magazine that had Gwyneth Paltrow and her son Moses, and I was like, it's not a name I ever think of, but there's all those like boys' names that are catching on that end in S right now, and it could fit in that like.
Silas, Amos, yeah, all of those names. And the thing is, like Moses and Noah, they're both these huge characters in the Old Testament, and Noah is so popular. You think that people would look at Moses as an alternative, but it's still kind of unpopular. So I don't know. I think it might become somewhat trendy in the next 15 years or so.
He could go by Mosey. I think that's so cute.
Mo.
I actually know a little one named Moses. I think most of you probably know that by now because he's the oldest of 5 kids, and they all have really great names, and so I bring him up a lot. But his middle name is Noble, so I think that's a really cool name, Moses Noble.
That's awesome. The 2 boy names that I wanted to share with everyone are names that have really strong associations. So the first name is Forrest, and of course Forrest is associated with Forrest Gump. It's actually at 841 in the charts right now, which I didn't even think it was on the charts at all, but yeah, it is. So I was really surprised to see that. And I just really think that Forrest is a really cool name, and I love nature names, so I really think that we should bring that name back. People should start using that name again and forget about Forrest Gump. And really, that's not that bad of an association anyway, because that movie's pretty good. And the next name that I have to share with everyone is Wilbur. And Wilbur left the charts in 1982, and it was pretty popular for quite a few years. And of course, Wilbur is a pig, so not the greatest association, but I think it is a really, really handsome and cute name, and it has a lot of great nickname opportunities. And the one girl name that I have to share is Ida. And Ida left the charts in 1986, but it was in the top 10 until like 1887 or something like that. So it was really popular a long time ago, and it just kept going down and down until 1982, and now it hasn't been in the charts for a long time. And I think that name is very beautiful and fits so well with all the A-ending names like Ada and Ava and, you know, the rest of them. So I think that Ida is due for a comeback.
Wilbur could honor all the Williams out there, too.
That's really what I was thinking. Like, Wilbur's a great William alternative.
And you get the nickname Will and Willie and all those cute little nicknames, too.
And then the 2-syllable ending in well, it would be UR in this case, but two-syllable ending in ER names are really in right now, like Carter and Cooper and Parker and stuff like that, so it fits with those.
I love Forrest so much. I think it would be like in my top 10, maybe top 15 or so, except for the like run, Forrest, run, like that. Like, I worry about that association. I love the Forrest Gump association, and I like it spelled like a forest.
Yeah, that's the word.
Yeah, there's spelling with the 1 R or the 2 R's. There's the 2 different spellings.
Yeah. It has such a good sound. Oh, I love it.
Yeah. Well, I could honestly use it, but the problem is that I have a very close friend with a son named Forrest, and her son is actually my age. And so not only is it my friend used it, but I know someone my age named Forrest, and so it would be just a little bit too weird for me to use it. But like Rod, my husband is a hunter, and it would be very meaningful to us. He absolutely loves being out in the forest. Like honestly, half the time he's out hunting, it's just to be out there. And yeah, I think it's an amazing name.
Yeah, I was actually going to say, I think something like Forrest and Fletcher or Forrest and Archer would be an awesome Civ set.
Actually, my friend who has a son named Forrest has a son with the middle name Fletcher, too.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Forrest Frazier and Jude Fletcher.
I feel like a while ago I was talking about Forrest, and Elena mentioned Forrester as like an alternative, too. That was cool.
Forrester would be awesome. Because it's got that ER ending. It's kind of like that occupational name trend.
Mm-hmm. And last but not least, let's hear your names, Alexia May.
Yay! Are you guys so happy that I am not emceeing this episode? Because I am, and Ruby's doing an awesome job. So anyway, my names that I've been thinking about are Rick and Betsy. I think that they sound really cute. I'd be really surprised and delighted to hear them on a little kid nowadays. Most Ricks and Betsy's are 50s and older. Betsy, at its peak, was in 1959 at number 228, and Rick was 1958 at number 76. So Rick was actually a little bit more popular than Betsy. I think Rick's really fun, and I can't see Fred ready for a comeback. I can't see Frederick ready for a comeback. But I think Rick is kind of like a cool Joe name, and it almost has like, to me, it has like a naturey feel to it. And I don't know, I would be really jazzed to meet a little kid named Rick and a little kid named Betsy.
Betsy is a really, really, really cute nickname for Elizabeth, too.
Oh, yeah.
I actually know someone who has a niece and a nephew named Linus and Betsy Lou. I kid you not. They're both under their babies.
That is so cute.
They're adorable.
Betsy Lou. Oh, I think Betsy would be actually a nice Isabella alternative, too.
Yeah.
People nickname Bella. I think Betsy would be super nice.
So now that we talked about names that are ready for a comeback, let's discuss names that are not ready for a comeback. I personally think that Gladys is not ready for a comeback. I don't know why. I'm just not really feeling Gladys.
I don't know if Gladys will ever be ready for a comeback. I think it was a name that kind of came out of nowhere and was just like a trend for a while, and then just maybe will go extinct. I don't know.
Myrtle.
I think the first syllable of Gladys could maybe at least make some people give it a second glance.
I just find it like when you say it's like Gladys. You can't say it like that, and that's just not that great. But yeah,
I mean, there's like Gladys and Gertrude. I kind of think of the same way, and I think Gertrude has more power to eventually come back, just because it has like, I don't know, it's more solid or something, but not yet. But maybe eventually. I don't know.
If you think names like, like Gladys and Mildred, that was my great-grandmother's name. Like, those names, do you find them, they're so ironic that people are going to start using them again?
Maybe Mildred with, like, Millie or Gertrude with Gertie, but Gladys just feels heavy to me or something. Mine I chose is, like, similar. It's Phyllis. It sounds like a grandmother, but some of the other names, like we talked about coming back, have a more, like, really feminine sound or really cutesy sound, and Phyllis has like a heavy sound to me. But
Yeah.
and then like if you wanted to honor a Phyllis, you could do Philip or Philippa or Pippa or things like that that are like more coming back. Cute, yeah.
I'm surprised Phyllis never got as popular as it did. I know an incredible person named Phyllis, and so I can't, like, make a nasty face when I hear the name because I picture her, but the actual sound of Phyllis, there's just nothing redeeming about it to me. Like, it just doesn't sound very nice, and I don't think of hardly any names like that, to be honest.
It sounds like Phyllis.
Yeah.
I think Phyllis and Bob Vance Refrigeration from The Office.
Yes, me too. I think of The Office when I hear Phyllis.
Phyllis!
She was such a cute character, but I mean, she's not someone I would name my daughter after. For me, I chose a name that was from a little bit further forward in time than you guys did, and I think this name is a name that we're going to hear our children use, and that's Linda. And Linda was the name that stole the #1 spot for Mary in 1947, which was a huge deal because that was the first time that Mary hadn't been the top name for girls, probably in like several hundred years. And it was the #1 name for for a couple years there, and then it started declining. And it's still in the top 1,000, but it's at like 643. And there's a theory that names go in a 100-year pattern. So after 100 years of them being popular and then starting to not be so popular and go down in popularity, they start to sound fresh and cool again. So I think that sometime in like the 2040s, 2050s maybe, when our kids or grandkids start having kids, then maybe they'll be considering Linda as like a really cool, fresh name. And also I think Linda is kind of like Bella. I mean, it means beautiful. So as an alternative to Bella, it could really work sometime in the future.
Yeah, I was actually thinking, it's so funny because I didn't know that you were going to talk about Linda. The last couple of days I've been thinking about the show, and I've been thinking a lot about Linda because I don't think it's ready for a comeback yet, but I can definitely see it eventually. But you know what's going to blow my mind is if, like, my kids or my grandkids name their kids like Jennifer.
But the thing is, it's going to happen because those names were popular, and then, eventually maybe our grandkids.
I know, but when I think about that, I can understand like why our parents and our grandparents raise their brows when we use like Sophia, because they're like, what?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was like, oh gosh, what if Callum has a kid and wants to name her like, I don't know, Gladys?
It's true. A lot of people like middle names for their grandmothers. I mean, look at Eleanor and some of those names that have gone up that are on our family trees. I definitely look to my grandparents and think of names. So
I actually do think Linda makes a good middle name because almost everybody has a Linda in their family. So it's like you can honor someone with that as a middle name, and almost everybody has someone in their family with the middle name Lynn. I think Linda could be an alternative to Lynn as a middle name if you want to honor someone with the middle name Lynn. And, I think a lot of times people, honestly, the majority of people I talk to when they're looking for middle names think that it has to be a family name. And so a lot of times they don't go for something that's their favorite sound. So they could go, they could choose Linda just because of the meaning. I mean, it's a word that's used in Spanish to mean beautiful. I definitely don't think it's ready for a first name, though, just like Amelia said.
Well, I had this thought today thinking about styles of names that I can see coming into fashion soon. You've got like the Hunger Games names and Divergent names, and it's like they're not sci-fi, but they're a little outside of the sphere of normal. Like they're like Gale and Katniss and Primrose. They're all like legitimate, but they're just right now. But I could see that it won't be very long. I think we're going to see a big boom in names like that. Puritan names, because that's really what Puritan names were back in the day. You have like Fairlight and Constance and Peregrine and Fearful and all those types of names. So I think society has done that once already, and I'm wondering if we're coming into that time where, especially with people wanting to have that unique name that more and more people will start using names like that.
I totally agree. So since I did a girl trend for names that are ready to come back, I'm doing a boy trend for names that are not ready to come back. And this one in particular, I personally don't ever want it to come back, but you guys might think a little bit differently. But so while I was researching for this video, I saw that in the 50s and 60s, there were tons of boy names being used in general, and even just within the top 100, there were several that are very nicknamey names given as, like they're given names. And the most popular ones that I saw were Willie, Ronnie, Danny, Tommy, and Johnny. You know, I think these are great if you want to call your child John, Johnny, or whatever, and call your Daniel, Danny. But these were in the top 100 for given names for a couple decades. And I definitely would not be excited to see that in 2015. Those enter the top 100, and I wouldn't really care to see it much at all, honestly.
It is happening in the UK though, with like Archie and Alfie and names like that. Ollie, like those are being used as names by themselves. So
I actually really like Willie.
I don't mind it as a nickname.
I think it's just personal preference. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'd rather have the child have a full name and then use the nickname.
I feel like most people in the U.S. are like that today, or maybe North America. But, you know, like you said, that UK, it's the opposite trend. So who knows, maybe 5 or 10 years from now, it'll be the opposite, and people want all their kids to have nicknames as given names here. We'll see.
Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the 9th episode of The Name Sisters. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.